It's classic character profile time.
It's Jerry Halliwell.
No, it's not. It's Alma Halliwell. Because she had cancer and she died of it, just like Hayley. There's the link. I put something on Facebook earlier this week asking anyone could they predict who our character profile would be, and nobody got it. I also asked if there's any requests for classic or normal character profiles, because now I'm on my holidays from school. I might do a few bulk character profiles, kind of getting them ready. So if anyone is looking for us to profile anyone in particular, just let us know via Facebook or whatever. But anyway, Alma. I put Alma Halliwell, even though I never really thought of her as that. She was always Alma Baldwin to me, but she died Alma Halliwell, so that's what we're calling her now. She was born on the 18th of October 1945, and she died on the 17th of June 2001. That was just before we met, Gemma.
Yeah, that's why it didn't affect me, because I wasn't watching it.
No. Her parents were George and Florrie Halliwell, and she married Jim Sedgwick in 1976 and, of course, Mike Baldwin in 1992. Alma first appeared on the 22nd of June 1981, and she last appeared on the 20th of June 2001, 3 days after she died.
That's magical.
I know. Just like Jesus appeared 3 days after he died.
How exciting.
But Alma did it by video link. It was a bit more technical. She was in 1,139 episodes and played by Amanda Barry.
Yes.
And before she was on Corrie, she was best known for her roles in the Carry On films. I don't think I've ever seen a Carry On film from start to finish. Have you watched them?
They're on television all the time, aren't they? I think they're like dad films now.
Yeah, that's why I haven't watched one yet then. Barbara Windsor was in them as well, wasn't she? Yeah, a lot of famous British actors were in it.
Loads of people started off their careers on there. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just a bit sort of relic of the...
Yeah.
Just, I don't know when they were made. 70s,
70s, I guess.
Don't know.
Well, Alma was originally introduced of the wife of cafe owner Jim Sedgwick, although they never actually shared a scene together, and she was a recurring guest character. I looked up Jim on Corriepedia, and he was only in like 30, 40 episodes or so, and that was all before Alma was even in it. So, well, out of small characters come great characters or something. As they say.
As they say. In 1976, she began a disastrous marriage to Jim, which got even worse when she found out she was pregnant in 1977 and she had an abortion rather than bring a baby into a loveless marriage.
Yeah. In 1982, she got Jim's cafe in her divorce settlement. Jim had run off with a florist, and Alma accompanied Pools winner Philip off to Florida, where he wasted all his money. And then that was it. That was all we saw of Alma until 1988. And a kind of a funny story I read on Wikipedia was that Amanda Barry's mum apparently bombarded Granada Studios with calls pretending to be all these different fans saying, we should have Alma back, let's have Alma back. We haven't seen Alma was brilliant. So Alma came back in 1988.
Excellent work.
Yeah, well done, Amanda's mum, Mrs. Barry.
Well, Alma had an argument in 1988 with Gail after she started a sandwich round with Sally's sister Gina. They make it up after Gail threatens to leave, and Gail gets a share of the sandwich profits, and she can run the cafe as she wants.
Oh, those are simpler times. That's a proper 80s story, isn't it, about sandwich rounds?
Gail ever getting herself together enough to do anything like that these days. Get yourself together, Gail!
1989, which was when Amanda Barry had returned with a permanent contract. She was broke. Alma moved into the cafe above the flat. No, the flat above the cafe. And she sold a 40% share of it to Gail for £9,000. God, things were cheap back then.
I don't understand businesses.
Well, it was the 80s.
There was one in the paper the other day. You buy in a business, and I can't remember, it's thousands of pounds. But basically, I worked it out. All you were doing was pretending you owned the business because the guy's leaving.
That sounds
good. You started to pay rent on the shop, though. It wasn't. You could have just started your own shop there without pay. I don't get it.
That year was also when she met and tried to seduce Mike Baldwin. Her first attempt using oysters didn't really work because Alma was running back and forth to the bathroom most of the time, apparently.
How romantic.
Yeah, but they did get together later on after she beat him at golf. And if this is all sounding a bit familiar, it's because we did Mike Baldwin as a character profile, well, a couple of months ago. But we did check, and their character histories were quite different, so that's okay. She was dumped later on that year because he got together with shop assistant Dawn Prescott, although by Boxing Day, Mike and Alma were back together again.
But she gets dumped again in 1990 after Mike takes up with Jackie Ingram, the widow of ex-owner of the textile factory where he worked.
Yeah, so what does Alma do to get her own back? Well, she vandalises Jackie's bedroom in revenge. Eventually, though...
Hopefully that involved throwing talcum powder and everything, so it's really hard to get out.
Is that the way you do it, is it?
Yeah. Take this!
Yeah, I guess it would be. Mike and Jackie, though, eventually got married, but split up after Jackie found out that Mike was still paying rent on the cafe, which was like giving money to Alma. So they got together. No, Alma then that year got together with Ken, which must have been quite exciting because
such a catch.
Mike and Ken have already got shared romantic history. Ken arranged a romantic night at a hotel on New Year's Eve, but she confesses that she spent Christmas Day with Mike and he dumps her.
Sad.
Yeah, that is very sad. 1992, she married Mike, happy, and settled down to working in the cafe with Gail. And I think through a lot of Alma and Mike's marriage, she was the level-headed one. He was always very sure of himself, very confident, and probably putting his foot in it with a lot of the time, and she had to kind of apologise to him. Alma's a really popular character, and it was really, really sad when she died. I mean, I only was watching her for like 5 years or so, and I did like her. There was nothing particularly unlikable about her. She was very level-headed. She was kind of a mother figure, even though she didn't have any children. But I mean, you don't know anything about her, do you, particularly?
I know what she looked like.
Black hair.
Yeah, she had short black hair, didn't she?
Yeah, but yeah, lots of people love Alma just because she was an all-round kind of nice person, but not soppy. She was just It's
a difficult character to be in soaps, really.
Yeah, I think there's...
Scriptwriters have to like you to want to make you into that sort of character.
Yeah. There was something, I think that we may even have a quote about this later, that when she came back in 1989, they were saying, oh, she's going to be the new Elsie Tanner. And although I wouldn't say that she rose to those heights, she was kind of the likeable, no-nonsense kind of woman. Okay. Anyway, we digress. In 1995, Jim died, and Alma inherits £2,000, which she used to buy a convertible MG, which kind of got Mike's back up a little bit because he was very much of the old school women should be seen and not heard and stay in the kitchen and whatever. And he didn't like the idea that she had this car.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, well, she got back at him by setting up Alma Baldwin Catering, just to get back at him because of how much he said.
I wouldn't have called it anything Baldwin if I was trying to get back at him.
Yeah, but it was ABC, so it kind of fitted. 1996, she fell for Audrey's son Stephen. I remember this happening. He was
Canadian.
He was Canadian. He came from Canada as a representative of Quebec Clothing, and he was kind of a bit of a suave kind of charmer.
Like Lewis.
Yeah, I guess so. He was looking for an English manufacturing base. She made a pass at him, but he turned her down. And then when she later confessed to Mike about it, he just kind of found it rather hilarious that she thought that she could have any chance with this Stephen bloke. Following year, Stephen broke the contract between Quebec and Underworld after hearing about Don Brennan's hate campaign against Mike, which is a story for another time, I guess. But Alma thinks it's actually because of her making a pass at him last year. He accused her of still fancying him, which led to a big row between her and his half-sister Gail, which ended in her selling her share of the cafe to Roy for £30,000.
What a profit.
I know, that was pretty good. How long was it? Like 8 years? It's gone up by £21,000? That's not bad.
Good.
She then encouraged Mike to play dirty with Quebec, and he started selling counterfeit goods. Quebec caught on to this, though, but because Don Brennan was out to get Mike at this time, he burned the factory down and destroyed all the evidence, which Mike was very, very pleased with, obviously, and he publicly thanked Don, but Don's retaliation to that was to kidnap Alma and drive her into the canal in his taxi, and I definitely remember that episode. That was an hour-long special. Very, very exciting. I didn't know what was going to happen. Spoilers didn't exist back then, or at least for, how old was I then? 15-year-old Michael. Very, very exciting stuff. But Don was then...
I guess this happened before Princess Diana died.
It was very close, actually. I can't remember. I think it was like June.
They would not have been able to show it, would they, afterwards? The whole country was in mourning for months after that.
I think when I was looking this up on the internet the other day, it was like June time, so a couple of months before Diana died. He was later arrested for attempted murder. That episode got over 15 million viewers, so
Pretty
lots
good.
of people are going to remember that one. And that was only like, how long, 4-5 years before Richard Hillman drove them into the canal? That was more exciting, though, to be fair. Alma started working at Furman's...
Had a better soundtrack.
Yeah. Alma started working at Furman's Freezers later that year. Again, it was kind of to pee Mike off, really, because, one, he didn't like the idea of his wife working anyway for anyone other than him as a housewife, and for her to lower herself to be like a checkout girl, he wasn't happy. Then towards the end of the year, Don was diagnosed with cancer, and he escaped police custody and tried to run over Mike in Alma's car, killing himself in the process. And that was a very exciting death as well, because I think he tried to whack Mike with a chair leg or something as well. And then that was a gripping episode. I wish you'd watched it back then.
Sorry. In 1998, she is peeved when Mike throws himself into supporting Deirdre when she was accused of fraud.
I remember that.
And he also reveals... Alma reveals his affair with her to the street. No. And she meets Hayley Patterson, who is a new recruit at Furman's, who latches on to Alma. And so Alma sets her up with Roy. But he finds out her secret and rejects her.
What secret would that be?
And she goes to Alma for support.
Yeah.
And Alma later accidentally reveals this to Mike, her secret, who wants to sack Hayley, but she settles on making her life a living hell until the secret is made public.
Yeah, so I think that the pairing of Alma and Hayley together was one of the many things that made Hayley such a well-loved character, because she was very shy, very timid back in the old days. I think she was like looking up to Alma as this is how a woman should be, because she's
quite glamorous, isn't she, Alma?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. And
what do you mean? You just think that a woman with short hair can't be glamorous, don't you?
No.
Yeah.
And Hayley wanted to be like Alma. This is like before her operation, I think. And I think Alma was getting a bit annoyed by having Hayley trailing around her, which is one of the reasons why she pushed her onto Roy. But it all worked out for the best. Until now. In 1999, Alma was matron of honour at the Croppers' unofficial wedding, which is the one that happened in the cafe. And she also split up with Mike that year after discovering that he'd had an affair with sales rep Julius Stone. Also, at exactly the same time, she had to cope with finding a lump in her breast, but she was given the all clear.
Phew.
Yes.
And she divorces Mike after finding out he had taken up with gobby machinist Linda Sykes.
Oh, that Linda Sykes.
Linda Sykes, she gets everywhere.
I remember her coming round with like a bottle of wine to try and console Mike, and that was a bit of a weird storyline. 2000, Alma reverted back to her maiden name of Halliwell. Briefly went out with Bob Bradshaw, but he made a pass at her landlady Audrey. 2001. Tragic year for Alma. She received news that because of a misdiagnosis and a missed smear test, she developed cervical cancer.
Terminal,
because...
just like poor St. J. Goody.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about the controversy behind that in a minute, because although it's well remembered when she died, a lot of the people involved in it weren't happy with how it played out. Meanwhile, Alma went to the Lake District to reflect, and Mike tracked her down, who realised what a fool he'd been for being wooed by Linda. Audrey had told him the news that she was there, so he went to go and get her. Now, when he returned home, he found out that Linda had been playing away with this other bloke, so he spent Alma's remaining time with her. And then later that year, Alma collapsed during an argument with Linda, because her kidney had failed, and not long after she died. It was really, really sad. 15 million viewers watched it, and apparently it was followed by a 1,000 megawatt surge on the national grid, which is equivalent to people putting on 400,000 kettles.
That's not enough.
Which is what happens in times of great
stress in England.
Yeah, God, get the kettle on, love.
Yeah.
That was so sad when she died, because she was all like, looked very, very haggard, and her features were all sunken in, and Audrey had gone to London with Sarah, Lou, and Gail and Todd, I think, at the time, and she had to rush back to see Alma, and she didn't make it in time. And I remember everyone was around the bed. Dr. Matt was there with Ken and Mike, and Audrey got there, and it was too late, and it was really, really sad. And lots of people remember that as being one of the saddest Corrie deaths, possibly soon to be eclipsed by Hayley. We'll have to see what happens with her. Like I said before, that wasn't quite the end of Alma on Coronation Street, though, because they played a video of herself paying tribute to her friends in her wake. And we were also then introduced to her cousin, Richard Hillman.
Lovely chap.
And I put cousin in inverted commas there, because it was never fully confirmed whether he was her cousin or whether he just kind of decided to pretend there to weave his wicked web on Coronation Street.
Yeah, but everyone loves a good funeral, don't they?
Yeah,
just lurk around churches.
Audrey and Mike went to the Lake District to scatter her ashes, and the salon was renamed Alma's for a little bit in tribute. I think that was one of the things that Alma was saying to Audrey. Oh, can you make sure people remember me? Call the salon Alma's. So she did.
Would have been yes, but only for 2 years.
I think the reason it was changed back to Audrey's, if I remember right, although they didn't make a big thing of it, was because after her cousin tried to drown the family, maybe Audrey didn't look quite so fondly back on her. I don't know.
That's me.
That's what I kind of got from reading about it on the internet, but I don't remember it happening. It just was one day it was Audrey's again.
I think I remember you saying.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Do some quotes, Gemma.
On her exit, Barry said, "I thought it was about time I bowed out in the hope that there's one more show in me. I want to endlessly thank Granada and Coronation Street. I've had a very happy time and I feel blessed and proud to have been in the show. But everything has its time. I feel like it's time to hand over to the youngsters in the show, who I think are brilliant, and I thought it was time I bowed out."
But like we said earlier, she wasn't very happy with the way she was written out, because it was like 6 weeks between her diagnosis and her death. And she and the Imperial Cancer Research Fund and pretty much anyone who knows anything about cervical cancer thought that it was far too fast. Amanda said, "Cancer touches all of our lives. There can't be anyone who hasn't been affected. If you're going to take an issue like this and use it for entertainment, you have to just be so very, very careful. As Alma's illness and deterioration proceeded with such amazing speed, I really did feel I was being asked to take part in a cheap ratings ploy, and I didn't like it one bit." She says you've got to be very, very careful with it, and I think so far they are being very, very careful with Hayley's storyline.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, you were saying it shouldn't be for entertainment. Yeah. And it's all part of soaps. It's all about the drama, but you can't make it into a rating, even though they knew that it was going to get ratings. They really.
It's kind of like what everyone jokes about with like talent shows and stuff. Like, oh, my mum's got cancer. Like everyone makes out that's a joke story. That you've got to have a sob story to get through.
Yeah, Dr. Anne Swarovski, sorry I probably pronounced that wrong, of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund said that Alma's story portrayed the worst case scenario, and it's very rare for women to die 6 weeks after diagnosis. It usually takes a year. But Corrie were like, no, she missed a smear test, there was a misdiagnosis, it's absolutely fine. And actually the storyline increased the amount of smear testing after the storyline, so it did good. Later on, a couple of years later, I think, the British Medical Journal said it could have unduly worried audiences and played undue burden on the NHS.
Well, we went through exactly the same thing after Jay Goody died, didn't we, with people going on about smear tests and making sure that they're all up to date and how tragic and etc.
Yeah, you just got to be...
She died really quickly after she found out. Everyone thought she was lying.
Did she? Well, it was about 6 months or so, I thought, wasn't it?
Well, how long do you want?
Well,
still pretty bad, do you think?
Yeah, I guess so it is. Well, we know that they're working with pancreatic cancer charities now for Hayley's storyline, so you'd think that they'll do it right. But I can't remember any examples, but there have been other storylines in the past where they've worked with professionals and they've still not quite got it right. Someone's going to complain somewhere.
I'm going to complain.
Don't you complain.
It's one of those things that you can try your hardest, but you're still making entertainment out of some horrible tragedy. So you are going to be open to criticism. They know that, so they're going in with their eyes open, aren't they?
Yeah, but like we said before, it couldn't have happened they couldn't have involved a better set of characters in the storyline, because they're all going to act their socks off.
Yes.
And it's going to be very sad if it does indeed kill Hayley. It's going to
Who knows?
Well, I don't, but my prediction is that it will. And I think a lot of people are kind of thinking that as well. So there was Alma Halliwell / Baldwin.